All right, good evening, everyone. Hope you all are doing well. Let's take a look and see what is going on with Bitcoin. So, we had our weekly candle close. Basically, we closed extremely bullish, even above 77,421, which is a really good sign. So, taking a look at our weekly candle close, we basically opened at 62,880. Our high was all the way up at 79,576, low being at 62,728 with a close at $77,710. We are up $14,830.60, about 23.59%, according to the BitGet Perpetual BTC chart. So definitely had a major expansive week. A 24% almost for this huge asset, which is huge. So that being said, guys, what can we expect for the following week? Well, I'm going to get rid of this 786 retracement here. So we want to see price hold in this range, okay? We can definitely drop down into some of these order blocks if it wants to. It doesn't necessarily have to, but I do want to see us hold at least, I would have to say, at least more than half of this, or this, basically this huge candle, right? So at the very worst case scenario, maybe retracing into 73,676 or 72K, that will be acceptable. I don't want to see us get below 72K. I don't want to see 60K again for Bitcoin for right now, if we're going to continue this expansive move up. One huge thing to identify is on the daily, you're going to want to keep that 69,317. Obviously, that's going to be extremely important. But I'm expecting for price to either want to kind of consolidate in a bullish flag here, which could really break out and even cause us to expand even further to the upside, or it just kind of, basically maybe slightly droops down into these order blocks right here. That's another possibility as well. So kind of have somewhat of two potential, patterns for a bullish breakout. There's always a potential that we could roll over as well. I just don't see that happening for right now, given the sentiment that we're in. Okay. Now, like I told you guys, because we breached the daily 200 MA, I want to see that golden cross, which we're going to get it very soon, it looks like. Your 2 day is going to be your next target, around 85,853. That's going to be your next area of resistance, right? If, we get that golden cross. Then it would go to your 3 day at 89,000, right? And so forth. So definitely, you're going to want to look for the 2 day to be the next target to the upside, okay? Taking a look at your 12-hour, you're kind of flagging out here. You've just been trading sideways within a very tight range lately. So I'm going to expect for price action to keep doing that, at least for right now. This could have been a deep enough dig right here, for the time being as far as liquidity goes. I don't know if we're going to dive deeper than this even this week, but this could be deep enough for right now, okay? I want you guys to keep that in mind. This could definitely be very much so a bullish flaggish pattern here. It's probably going to look better on some of the smaller time frames, but you kind of have something like this going on. And this could either break up or break down. Obviously we could potentially be in a premium right now, so it could break down. But we are holding that 77,000 level really strong. So I'm more of the mindset that we're probably going to break up potentially. Let's take a look and see what that would look like, whether it would be breaking up or breaking down. So if you were to break up, you're looking at about 81,125. Breaking down, you'd be looking at about the middle of this order block, which is definitely possible, around 74,636. So either way, this would be a realistic move, whether we break up or break down. It's all going to be dependent on time and when we get the breakout. Now, I want you guys to keep in mind that if we get the pump tonight, right, there's a potential that, Sunday, Monday, we could get a high, and then this turns into a bearish week, and we, basically fall the rest of the week. That is a possibility, right? So just be aware that it's going to be extremely important to see what we do come the first couple of days this week. If we do pump, unless we're going to stay extremely bullish, which we are still very overextended on some of these time frames from their moving averages, it's going to be more likely to look for a short setup, okay, rather than a long setup. But if we dump first for this week, like if we come visit 74K region or even 75, 879 again, then there's a potential that we could get that move to the upside. and get a bullish move for the remainder of the week. Okay. So keep time in mind as the number one thing for right now. That's what, I've been taught. That's what I follow. Time is the number one thing before price. Okay. So that being said, I am still expecting for us to potentially kind of hold this area. It does look very bearish. This is a very bearish structure, right? You kind of have this Adam and Eve that tried to break down, couldn't really do that, and now you kind of have maybe this complex head and shoulders type thing trying to form here. So either way, it does look very bearish. It does look like a Bart Simpson to me as well. So this kind of looks like a Bart head here. So just know that there's a very good potential that this could break down where it started. So somewhere down into the 74K-ish range, potentially down here. Just be aware that even though we have gone up only this week, there's a potential that we do get some decent retracement, right? And I do have this order block right here. I mean, we could potentially get a slight drop as well again. Maybe bounce somewhere in here as well, fulfill this order block and get a bounce out of here. Who knows? But that's just kind of what I'm seeing so far for Bitcoin for right now. You're staying above the 15-minute 200 MA, which is pretty bullish in my opinion. So, you lost it barely. You're regaining it. The only thing is your moving averages are getting tight, so there's a potential that you'll just get a rollover tonight, especially if you can't solidly reclaim 77,421, which we're always having a problem with here. But that being said, guys, that's kind of what I'm seeing as far as Bitcoin's price action goes. Now, where does that tie in with levels? Well, levels to watch, 77,421, obviously. I'm also going to be targeting 78,751, which is going to be this triple top right here. That's definitely an area of interest for me. And that could potentially be our high for the week if we do get the move up first, right? So 78,751, obviously, and then obviously 80,500 as well, which is something that we've been targeting for a while. Now, to the downside, if we get the move down, the first area I'm going to target is fulfilling this order block around 76.3. If we were to lose that, more than likely we're going to get to 75.879-ish area, if not 74.8. So, and then finally 73.6, 76. So this order block is going to be a very big tell for this week. We're going to have to see if we can stay within this order block. This will be extremely important, okay? So my ideal for price action is if we do get the rollover, to at least stay within this order block and not lose it. Because if we lose it, there's a potential we roll all the way down into this order block and then this one as well. So I would like for us to stay within this order block for the time being. All right, guys, so that being said, I gave you some levels to the upside and to the downside. Let's go ahead and move on to liquidity. So taking a look at TradingDifferent, our favorite liquidity tool here, you can basically see that on your 4-hour, you still got this area down here into about 74.8 to 75K-ish range. So that is going to be your potential for us to get a bounce from. Again, middle of the order block just about. So that is very realistic for us to shoot for right now. But you still have all this liquidity up here, even up to about 80,300 in the short term, right? That we could potentially take out before we have to consolidate again and start moving our way slowly up into this area. Taking a look at the 1 hour. So the 1 hour definitely, like I said before, showing that bearish structure. We also have, that potential to roll into this liquidity to the downside. We have enough bridges to get us to about 74.9-ish area, so that would be a potential first target. If we lose that, though, guys, unfortunately, it does look like we're going to probably head into the 72,000 range, low 72,000 range at that, taking out this bottom right here. So we definitely want to see us basically, at least hold 74.9-ish area if we were to get that follow through to the downside earlier on this week. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of liquidity to the upside. I mean, we have this little speck right here, which would take out this top right here, so around 78,089. But, we have some up here at 79K as well, but nothing to really write home about for right now. 50x does show that we have the bridges though. If it wants to start taking out the 50x, it definitely has the bridges to do so. So be aware that even though we don't have the 100x, we have the 50x to get us all the way up here, even up to about 80,008. Okay. So taking a look at our 15-minute, let's see where that's at here. So to the upside, I would first be targeting, if we get that move up, taking out this top right here, maybe get to about 78.2. you know, that would be kind of your first area. And then if you're able to get above there, you possibly can get that move all the way up to 79.5. That's kind of going to be my first target. You know, if you guys were in a long, that would be a first target is around 79.5 of this red area right here. There's a potential we can just kind of blow through all of this, okay? Even all the way up to 80,295. But I think the safer bet is the 79.5-ish area. All right. That being said, guys, let's take a real quick look at our order book, see what's happening there. So the orders to the downside really lightened up, and this did act as a support level around 76,850. So we basically fulfilled this order, we took it out, we got the bounce from there, and now you can see there's about 2 orders to the upside around 78,400, even leading to about 78,900 as well. So there's a potential that we can just kind of keep getting that move up, for, at least for right now, because we don't have any significant orders to the downside. There's always going to be that issue, though, and that potential we could roll over to 74,600. But just keep in mind for right now, it does look like there's more orders closer by to the upside. Okay, let's take a final look at our simple map, see if there's any levels that we can keep in mind for the night through tomorrow morning until I give my next update here. All right, so as far as to the downside, your first area is going to be around 76,710 to 76,800 for support. If you lose that, you're going to be looking at about 76,500 with getting a potential rollover into 76,000 territory. Now, if you lose 76,000, you can basically get to 75,540 and then just kind of go from there. To the upside, so to the upside, you're looking at about 78,000 to 78,60 as your first areas of overhead resistance. If you're able to get past those, you can kind of crawl your way up to about 78,360 as your next area of overhead resistance, and then get that follow through to about 78,840. Once you get through 78,840, then you're looking at about 79,560. So all areas of potential overhead resistance to the upside. 79,560 obviously is going to be your strongest area of resistance because that is the most liquidity that we have right there. Taking a look at your swing time frames, let's go ahead and zoom in there as well. So once again, guys, to the downside, 76,800 to 76,710 are going to be your areas of basically bottom support, followed by 76,140 and then by 75,540 before you then have to continue to the downside. Now to the upside, guys, you're going to be looking at 78,000 even to 78,090. And then getting up to 78,360, you get up to 78,360. You can test the 78,840 resistance level, and then finally, like I mentioned before, the 79,560 is going to be your strongest area of overhead resistance. All right, guys, that being said, that is what I have for you this evening. As usual, if you guys want to use TradingDifferent and its tools, feel free to use my code Sean. You'll get 10% off your entire order to gain access to all of these amazing tools that I utilize on a daily basis through TradingDifferent. And it does really help me identify my own support and resistance levels. As you can tell, I'm fairly accurate with them. So you can see how much of a benefit it is to utilizing this program for your trades. All right, guys, that is what I have for you for this evening. I will be back tomorrow morning. I hope you guys had a wonderful weekend, and I will talk to you all in the morning on Monday. All right, take care. I'll talk to you all later.